Hello, welcome to my channel, Outspoken Samantha. If you are new here, welcome. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. If you're returning, welcome back. Thank you so much for the support. On my channel, I like to give my opinion and perspective on things that are happening today, things that I think actually matter to everyday people, especially those of us trying to raise kids in the insanity known as today's society. I do like to talk about current events and politics, and my perspective does tend to be more on the conservative side of things. Please like this video, leave a comment below, and also share it with others. Also, be sure you are subscribed to my channel. Help me to grow this channel and hopefully to reach more people that value logic, reason, and sanity. Also, be sure to find me on Rumble under Outspoken Samantha in the event that YouTube decides I have violated their community standards and chooses to kick me off their platform forever. That being said, let's get into today's topic. So we saw that President Trump made the not surprising announcement of the fact that he is running for president for 2024. We all saw it coming. We all knew he was going to announce, but there was zero surprise. There's no human being on the planet that didn't see it coming, that didn't know that this was going to happen. So he made the announcement, and I think there's a certain level of excitement for it, but I think there's also a lot of reservations. I think a lot of us kind of have mixed feelings about it. Some excitement, perhaps mixed with a little bit of anxiety. And I find it really interesting that he announced it 2 whole years before the next election. That seems like a really long time to campaign. I honestly think that he did it because he is just chomping at the bit to get back into things. I feel like he feels like his presidential term was cut short in not being able to serve those 2 consecutive terms together back to back. And he was just waiting for the opportunity to get back into the ring, to get back into politics, and to really continue his presidency in a sense. So to me, that would make the most sense. I'm sure there are other reasons that go far deeper than my brain will take me, but just personality wise, that just seems to align with who Trump is as a person. So all the more power to him. It is what it is. May as well announce it now. Why put it off? And I don't, I have no problems with President Trump. I know, we saw kind of these little jabs that he was taking at Ron DeSantis, which has been really unfortunate because after President Trump left the White House, I feel like it's Ron DeSantis that has really carried that torch, whether it be the MAGA movement, whether it be just conservatism in general, but really just carrying that torch for us and giving us, hope, giving us that sense of, we've still got fighters on our side. And we've still got people that are moving things forward, that are fighting for our founding principles and our core values, fighting for what America is and really doing it effectively. And, I think that he's just kind of kept things going, and he's done an incredible job. So it was really disheartening to see these jabs toward him, just making Trump look like he feels insecure about DeSantis potentially running against him, and which is not anything that anybody wants to see. We're exhausted by conflict. We are exhausted by division. And, just coming from a regular everyday voter perspective, it's like we see enough of this coming from the left nonstop every day in and day out, every minute of every day. We don't want to see it from our side too, especially not between 2 people that we have, that a lot of us truly respect and appreciate for different things. So, I think a lot of us are just begging, like, please don't start bickering. Please don't start fighting, and especially the mom in me is just going, boys, stop fighting. Okay. We love both of you. Just stop. We don't need bickering right now. So, and I appreciate that Ron DeSantis has pretty much not responded. I know he kind of did a little bit the other day in saying that, that coming under fire when you're running for politics is just kind of the name of the game. It just kind of happens. And, really did remind Trump of the things that DeSantis has done in Florida just based on his leadership. Trump really cannot take credit for everything that Ron DeSantis has accomplished in Florida. Yes, he helped him with his campaign. Yes, he boosted his name and boosted his campaign and was a strong supporter, which I think helped Ron DeSantis kind of get, pushed him over the edge into the governorship. But it really is Ron DeSantis because of his leadership, because of who he is, because of being such a strong, unapologetic conservative and just getting crap done. that has turned Florida just into this, incredible sanctuary for conservatives. So, but again, it's like, we don't need to be fighting, guys. We don't need to be bickering. We don't need to be taking jabs at each other. So I really do hope for the sake of our sanity, just for the sake of moving forward and not wanting to create division where there really doesn't need to be any. I really hope that piece of it ends. We don't need any more of it. But I'm excited that Trump is running again. I'm excited. We know that he has a record of fighting for this country. Let's not forget, it wasn't that long ago where we had a record economy. We had the lowest unemployment rates for women, for Black people, for Hispanic people, for youth. Everybody was thriving. We had energy independence. We had national security. We had peace deals all over the world. We were finally holding China accountable. We had a strong military. We have respect for families, for religion, for parents. We had low cost of everyday essentials, low gas prices. Everything was stable and secure under Trump, despite what the ridiculous, lying, deceptive, despicable media ever said about it. Everybody, on the whole, was feeling secure about the future, secure about the way that things were going in our country. So we know that Trump now has a record of being able to deliver on all of the things that really matter to the American people. Before he got into office in 2016, we were pretty much just taking a chance. We're like, this is what this guy said he's going to do. I hope that he does it. But we didn't have anything to go on as far as a political career. We had absolutely nothing to go on, nothing. He hadn't proven himself in any way as far as politics, and we were giving him the presidency, not just like a Senate seat, not a seat in Congress, not House Speaker, not any of these other things. We were giving him the presidency, and that was a really big leap of faith to take, and he delivered. Oh, someday I will not cough anymore. Not only that, what I really, appreciated about Trump was that he was not beholden to anybody in politics at all. He was not funded by them. He was not backed by them. And that is why the left hates this man so much, is that they don't own him. And he has the tools and the resources essentially to do whatever he wants to do. And he does not have to answer to them. They've got nothing to hold over his head. We know that they've tried a million investigations at this point and never, been able to turn up anything against him. And that is why they hate him so much, because if there is anybody that can put these people behind bars, it's President Trump. And I know that probably a lot of us have a lot of disappointment that more people didn't end up behind bars in 2016, 17, 18, and 19, but, we can give him another shot on that. But I do have, questions and concerns that have been rolling around in my brain as far as another Trump presidency. I think I have like a little bit of PTSD about constantly being berated by the media on a daily basis about how awful he is, and constantly having to defend his behavior and his tweets and his personality to people, and just constantly trying to remind people to focus on policies. But at the same time, we can see that the political climate over the last 2 years has changed a lot. I think we were kind of hoping for a couple of minutes at least that things would change, that they would calm down, that maybe we would have a little bit more unity now that Trump was out of office. And that lasted for about 8 seconds before we realized that that wasn't going to happen. And it has gotten so much worse. And, when Trump took office, he, in 2016, he exposed a lot of fights that we didn't know that we needed to be fighting. Like, we knew the media was biased. We knew that they had, left-leaning tendencies, but I admit myself, I had no idea that they were as blatantly owned by the far left agenda and far left politicians as they are. Like, they are basically another arm of the Democrat Party. There's not just biases, it's just the fact that that is who they work for, and that is who owns them, and that is who they will advocate for until the day they die. So we, at some point we realized that these people cannot be trusted. They're not interested in journalism. They're not interested in reporting. They are interested in an agenda whatsoever. And we didn't realize how much they were intentionally hurting the American people. And I think, Trump really woke us up to a lot of that. He exposed how truly deceptive and all out political that everything that the media says is. Everything that they say is political. They're not journalists. They don't care about lying. They abandoned what their actual jobs are a long time ago. He also exposed a lot of the corruption in Washington, D.C. He opened up our eyes to how much our enemies were really taking advantage of us, and how much our own DOJ is politically biased, and how much the U.S. government in general has been working against its own people. So he brought a lot of things to light in 2016. So, he opened up our eyes to a lot of fights that we didn't even know that we were supposed to be having. And now, and he really did light a fire under conservatives. We've always kind of been the the bigger people, the nice guys. We kind of take the high road, and I know that the left really depends on us doing that because they don't care about being hypocrites. They don't care about double standards. They don't care about lying and being deceptive and doing whatever they have to do to win. So he lit a fire under conservatives and essentially saying, like, we have got to stop sitting around and just being the nice guys. Like, we have got to stand up, and if we're going to keep any semblance of this country going in the way that it was meant to go, we have got to start fighting for it. So all of that to be said, 2 years later, I feel like the political climate has changed a lot. And is Trump the right person to take things from here? I feel like in some ways, no, because it would be really nice to have somebody in the White House fighting for our side that has a little bit more self-control, that's a little bit more measured and not so reactive, and not pretty much like this walking stick of dynamite everywhere that they go, that's not so ready to respond in such an abrupt and hostile way. But at the same time, is that what we need right now? Because from what we see from the left, they have zero self-control. They have zero interest in holding back in any way. So it's kind of like, why should we put somebody out there that has any kind of self-control when they have none whatsoever? So it's an exhausting place to be in, because it would, in an ideal world, be nice to be able to put that diplomatic, refined person in office that can really bring back some sense of respect to the White House that we probably haven't seen in a while. But I don't know that we're going to get there. So the question is, how do we decide what our priorities are? How do we decide the best way to win people over? Because, we know that there's like a huge base for Trump that are going to, they're the Trump ride or dies. Like they're going with him no matter what direction he goes in. But there's this really strong independent base that we can't forget about. And that's the base that I worry about in Trump ever being able to appeal to. It's been really interesting, because I see a lot of people that say, I really regret voting for Biden. I regret making that decision, that I let the media, persuade me into voting that way. And, when clearly I was being lied to and all of these things. And I've seen a lot of people tweet, things like this, just kind of in that same vein. And my response to that has been, that's great that you're sorry. It's great that you're apologizing and that you're recognizing exactly how you were persuaded into voting that way, and to believing that you were voting for somebody that really was interested in creating a better country for you. But honestly, until you're willing to recognize that it was the media that led you to vote for Biden, who lied relentlessly, and until you recognize that they lied to you then, and they're lying to you now, and they will continue to lie to you, so that you're not making up your own independent mind about a candidate based on their stance on policies and how those policies will affect your life. And they'll lie to you to vote for the person who will continue to push their agenda, going so far as to even withhold information from you, things like the Hunter Biden laptop story, just things that they know that will matter to you. They will hide those from you just to get you to vote for the person they want you to vote for. Until you recognize that and you stop listening to the people that persuaded you to vote for Biden in the first place, and if you are still continuing to listen to those people, they will just as easily manipulate you into voting against Trump or voting against the Republican nominee, whoever that is, for the same reasons that they did it in 2020. They are not going to let up. They are not going to change their tactics. They're not going to change their game, and they're going to double down on them. So until you realize that you need to stop listening to them and recognize how much they are truly trying to just, persuade you and manipulate you into voting for their guy, regardless of, whether or not it's actually in your best interest, then you're not doing yourself any favors. You're not doing the country any favors. You haven't learned your lesson, and I really don't think you're that sorry if you can't correct the problem. And it's when I see people that say, I will never vote for Trump no matter what, even now after 2 years of the Biden administration, knowing full well that the alternative is an administration that will continue to drive America into the ground, full of elitists that have no problem causing empty grocery shelves and crime across every neighborhood and completely destroying our children by keeping them out of school for no reason. Then, when I see people that say they will never vote for Trump, and now that they blatantly have this example of what the alternative is, how do we appeal to those people? And to me, the answer is DeSantis, because clearly he has that capability of appealing to independent voters. And that is probably my biggest hesitation in support for Trump right now, if I'm being 100% honest, is swaying the independent voter base. I'm hoping and praying that Trump can learn some self-control and really learn a sense of diplomacy, and not be so hostile and reactive, and to do all of the things that have turned the independent base off. But at the same time, there's a really good chance he's going to end up being the nominee. And I am praying that people will be able to separate the personality from the policy. And let's just be honest, Biden is no better. He is no better than Trump. In fact, I think in a lot of ways he's worse, especially personality-wise. The guy is arrogant AF. This man has no finesse or refinement whatsoever. He is one of the worst public speakers I have ever heard in my life. And when it comes to mean tweets, I would rather take Donald Trump's mean tweets all day long than a guy who gets up with a blood red background and gives a Stalin-esque speech about how you're not allowed to support anybody that isn't a Democrat or you're a threat to the country. So let's just try to keep things in perspective a little bit. Let's try to at least have a little bit of balance and realize that a lot of your dislike for President Trump probably came from that media narrative. And that if you really were to take a step back and tune out all the noise, you would find yourself being able to focus on the policies, focus on the fighter, focus on the fact that if anybody is going to stand up to everything that we have to stand up against now, and not give up and not back down, it is going to be President Trump. It is going to be Donald Trump. That being said, if the nominee is I keep saying President DeSantis, maybe I'm projecting here, maybe I'm foreseeing something here. If it is him, I have no doubt that he will be able to fight that same fight as well. And I hope that these two men can come together and support each other, because we would be lucky to have either one. Do have one concern about DeSantis though, and maybe this is just in my heart of hearts. We saw what the media and the left did to President Trump during his presidency, the constant attacks and the targeting in the media and the impeachments and the investigations and the relentless just targeting nonstop. And I look at Ron DeSantis and his beautiful little family and his beautiful wife and his little children, and I'm like, oh, I don't want them to have to go through that. I really, truly don't. And that that's what's going to happen. It's going to be relentless. That they are going to drag this family through the mud. And it's not that I don't think they can handle it. It just, at least with President Trump, his kids are grown. He's got, Donald Trump Jr. He had Ivanka, even though I know that she has said that she's going to step back from politics. But Laura, he had this family full of fighters, and not that Ron DeSantis doesn't have that. It's just, it's different. And I do have concerns about seeing his family being drugged through this, poop show and just have to go through any level of what Donald Trump went through in 2016. So I think that both families need our prayers either way. That is just my thoughts on the whole thing. I wasn't even sure I was going to comment on it, but I did kind of want to weigh my, thoughts and my concerns about, the pros and cons to either man running. Ron DeSantis hasn't even said that he's going to run yet. Again, I'd be surprised if he didn't, but, we'll wait to see what happens. So at this point, I think we're going to have to figure out how to sway our independent voter friends and hopefully try to block some of the media narrative that we know is already coming. And I honestly think that Brian Stelter is probably really sad that he is no longer on the air, especially with Trump being back in the news cycle and just all of the things that we know are going to happen. It's just inevitable. We may as well mentally prepare for it. This is just inevitable. The mainstream media is just chomping at the bit to start to be able to relentlessly just talk about Trump again, because we know Biden isn't that exciting to talk about. He's a corpse. It's essentially just wheeling this dead body around that blinks once in a while and mutters things about ice cream. So let me know what your thoughts are. I would love to hear them below. Have a good night. We'll see you next time.